Hi, my name is Theko Boshomane. You're watching Analogue Culture.
Hello, Theko Boshomane.
How do I refer you to as DJ Ndo-C or Linda?
Your choice. What do you prefer?
DJ Ndo-C.
Yeah, I can go for that one.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, Papas?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good. Congratulations on the movie Out of the Blue.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, can you put your mic close to you, please? Yeah, there I can hear you clearly. Yeah, so what's good?
Yeah, all good. A bit tired from the screenings. And yeah, just getting ready to get back to the studio and start producing again. Yeah, so that's what's been keeping me up.
Okay. Who's Theko Boshomane?
Theko Boshomane is an artist born in Polokwane Limpopo, who moved to Pretoria in 2009 to study for visual art, fine art. Later moved to Johannesburg to practice as a professional artist, and then is currently been in Cape Town Museumberg for 3 years now.
Okay. So, literally, okay. Let's talk about your education for fine arts.
Yeah, so I have a BTech in fine art from Tshwane University of Technology.
Okay.
Yeah. Studied from 2009 to 2012. Yeah.
How did you decide to do fine arts?
So what happened was that I've always loved art. I've always sketched in high school. I started playing with paint in 2006. That's where I started my first paintbrush and paint. I was taught by this guy called Jonas Mailula how to paint and how to better sketch and make drawings. And then after my matric, I wanted to study fine art, but because of then there was no fine art offered around in Limpopo. My parents kind of discouraged the whole idea of moving to Pretoria, so I had to study LLB for a year at University of Limpopo. And while I was studying LLB there, so I made a drawing of a friend, and a friend showed the drawing to the vice chancellor, and the vice chancellor of University of Limpopo called me to the office while they were having a meeting. And then they asked me if I wanted to study fine art, and then they asked me where do I want to. I had to decide from between UJ and TUT, but then they quickly said, okay, let's call the TUT people.
Yeah.
And then the TUT people said I must just send all the drawings that I had at that time, and then I enrolled the following year.
At TUT for fine art.
TUT for fine art, yeah.
Hey. How was studying at TUT?
Incredible, because now I felt like I'm moving from LLB, moving away from like a more serious approach or educational background or subject. I was now amongst other artists, from different backgrounds, different environments. So it was good, to meet other fellow artists, and to finally be studying like on a serious note, learning more about painting, drawing, and other mediums. So it was quite cool. It was 4 years of awesomeness for me, very fulfilling.
Between fine arts and LLB, did you literally know that you wanted to be an artist?
Always knew that I wanted to be an artist. The reason I ended up doing LLB was because I wanted to study actually psychology instead. But then it was full at that time because it was a sudden decision to study something. And I think LLB at that time was the only course that was available. So I went for it.
Any regrets about not becoming a lawyer?
No regrets at all, but I think it was very helpful. And I would have done it. I mean, I thought at some point to go back and continue with it, just to have it in my pocket. But no regrets whatsoever. I think fine art was always it. I just happened to be there, and I think I would have made like a terrible lawyer. Yeah.
Excuse me. The flu has got me, eh?
Get well soon.
Yeah, man. So you're in TUT. You're finishing off your bachelor's. You said.
Yeah.
Bachelor's degree in fine arts. What next from there?
So I wanted to do my master's, which I will eventually. But I think also I told myself I need to be on the ground, learn more, really discover which subject matter I would really like to tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been for me go and practice professionally, and with time, get back to gaining more knowledge, get back to the education of things. But just to have it, not for anything. I don't need a backup. I think I'll figure it out through the art.
Yeah.
But like understanding how the mind works and understanding emotions, and I'm very intrigued by the idea of using art as a form of healing. So I think that pushes me towards more studying the mind a bit.
Yeah. What do you find intriguing about art itself?
Art itself, the idea that it allows one to express themselves, and then whatever that ways in which you express yourself is able to translate into something, and then people can connect with that thing without you having to be there. So I find it very magical that one is able to use a medium to communicate ideas, communicate emotions, and really find out a lot about oneself, and sometimes heal. I mean, it's a very therapeutic process in any form of art, I think.
Okay. You're done at TUT. Where do you move to from there? You're in Pretoria at that stage, right?
Yes.
Did you ever work in Pretoria?
So what happened is that after graduating, I took part the following year in a prestigious art competition, Sasol New Signatures.
Yeah.
And the same year I took part in it, I got awarded a merit award certificate. And
this is after TUT, right? After TUT.
So after TUT, I enter a competition. This is 2013. I enter an art competition called Sasol New Signatures.
Okay.
And then I enter it with a video piece. So I create a video piece called Rebirth.
You were still telling me about Sasol prestigious week.
Yeah, so Sasol, it's a Sasol New Signatures. It's a prestigious art competition. So I made a video piece called Rebirth, Wanted by the Past. It's of this man raping himself in an abandoned house with sellotape, and trying to escape. So it got me a merit award from Sasol New Signatures, which kind of then made me question if really I should just start practicing professionally, continue with this as well, because I had just finished studying. So I think it kind of gave me the motivation to really be a full-time artist.
Okay.
So in the same year, actually in 2013, I skipped. So after TUT, I moved to Soweto. Actually, I moved to Proteas land, where I stayed with my uncle. for a couple of years then, trying to find my way in Johannesburg. So, so when I moved to Joburg, I started making friends, attending art exhibitions and stuff. And so I met this guy called Ketla Chipape Mahato, who we became friends for a long time. And then he offered me an artist residency. For 6 months. It was supposed to be 3 months, and so the studio was Pepper Fatsumukwena's studio. So he was having a residency somewhere. So it gave me a chance to use his studio for like 6 months. And after that 6 months, within that 6 months when I was working there, I started working as an artist assistant for another artist called Nicholas Klobo, but not on a full-time basis. So when he had projects, he would call me in. And that as well allowed me to now have my own studio at August House. Where I lived and worked from there, where I produced a lot of my work. So most of my work actually was produced there. The stuff that I later moved to the Constitutional Hill, where I had a studio there. And then it was there, I had a studio for like a year, and then I did a mentorship program there as well to mentor like a young artist, and also afford them an opportunity to share the space with me. While I was there, I got a call from a friend asking me if I'm available for 3 months, and then I said I am. Well, what for? And then he said there's a business program in Cape Town for 3 months and an opportunity to do like a two-man show. And then I said, let's go. And that's how I ended up in Cape Town, Muizenberg, Gallery South. So I've been here so Gallery South, which is owned by Claudia Brody. And that allowed me to work with the business program was sponsored by the Australian Embassy as well. So I did the program for 3 years, but while at the same time working towards a two-man show with Fiso Temba, who is an artist friend from Joburg. But unfortunately, Fiso Temba had to go back to Joburg because of family responsibilities. So it was then that I had to, I was asked if Claudia asked me, do you want to do a solo show? And then I said, yeah, sure thing, why not? And then I worked for a year towards the exhibition that I had called Luwatla, Spirit of the Ocean. Which was good one.
That's an interesting movement from Joburg down here. So the program that you had in Joburg, did you close it down?
So I left the studio. Someone is still occupying the studio till this day.
Is the mentorship program that you left there still on?
Yeah, it's still the same person is having a studio there.
Who's your favorite artist?
Number 1, Frida Kahlo. Number 2, Yayoi Kusama, Francis Bacon, Mark Rothko. William Tanner. So I have a lot. I have a lot. Joseph Buse, Johannes Pokela, South African, Lififi Tladi. Nicholas, my mentor, is my favorite, of course. And Kimangwelo Khulere is also local. Who else? I might forget a few. But I mean, I love them from different perspectives in what they do, because I believe I'm a multidisciplinary. I don't box myself into a way of thinking, though at the moment most of the work that I do is mostly painting, because of painting is my first love. But that's the reason why I have like multiple influences in how I create.
What would you call your style of painting?
So it was mostly abstract realism, but it's moving more towards realism so far. So I'm falling in love with the abstract way of expressing myself. You know, you no longer get to see certain things. There's elements in the painting that are not identifiable. You kind of like have to figure out some certain things. It has to connect to you in a more spiritual way than having to have representations of things where you can identify, for example, a seal, because I paint seals a lot. But the more the direction is more the essence of things, it's more influenced now. The mountain is starting to influence my way of creating, whereas it's merging the ocean and the mountain. Because in the beginning I was not really hiking, so I've went now from just connecting with the ocean to connecting with also the mountain because of the hiking.
Yeah.
So I've managed to find a vocab. A new way of expressing myself. Yeah.
Let's talk about your relationship to the ocean. Every morning you wake up, you go for a walk by the ocean, and you talk to the ocean. What is if you had to explain that to me? What is it?
It's the deeper connection to the ocean. You know. I've figured it out over the time. You know, in the beginning, because I struggle to sleep and I dream of the ocean a lot, and I think it communicates with me, because even in the dream world, I see the ocean a lot, and when there's high tides, it's windy, I struggle to sleep. And you know, sometimes I hear some voices, which I believe could be the ocean. I can't really figure it out so far. Might need help with that. So I try to start my day with meditations, with prayer, because I believe I'm very much connected to the ocean, and certain things happen when I'm walking along the ocean. And if I go for a swim, it becomes worse, because then I'll struggle for a couple of days to detach myself from it. So I think it's more a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And I've learned, and I think it got me back to praying as well, because I struggled with prayer for a bit. I was like, it's not something that I want to do.
Yeah.
But by going to the ocean every day in the morning, I've gotten back to prayer, and I feel it. You know, there would be certain parts of the ocean where I would stand, and then I'll pay gratitude, and I'll just to pay homage and ask for guidance, protection, and wisdom.
Yeah.
I think it's that, and just really connect to not just the surface, but what is underneath in a more spiritual context than anything.
Yeah. I can relate to what you're saying. I've recently took up bonsaiing, and I'm kind of connecting with the trees. They've got this high dopamine release that I get, and I forget a heck of a lot of things, because I'm more happier and in tune when I'm doing that. Yeah. Let's talk about the Spirit of Luwatla, the whole collection. Did you paint that pre-shooting Out of the Blue, or was that painted during?
Yeah, so it was painted before Out of the Blue. So what happened was that, so look, the whole process was more towards about overcoming things for me, and then using water as a healing element. So I wanted to document this transition of moving, of overcoming, of healing, and surrendering to the unknown.
Yeah.
And the best way was to reference the ocean. And because of this, it's been a process of overcoming things. It's been a process of healing for me. And at the same time, I could realize that it's stepping into a grand awakening. And I believe that I was here for a reason. And when I wanted to document the water, I documented the idea of stepping into the unknown. And then while I was busy in the first few paintings that I made, I remember the first 3 pieces were called A Moment of Healing, 1, 2, 3. And then there was one called A Moment of Enlightenment. And then there was The Call of the Sea, which was the 4th one. And then it was when I was busy with The Call of the Sea that I went out for food at the Cork Bay Harbor. I went out for food, for fish, to have some fish and chips. And when I was there, I discovered the seals.
Okay.
So what was fascinating me at that time was the relationship that seals had with human beings, and being it that when they are on land, they're a bit like, they will tell you, give us space, you know. They will be a bit, they'll show you that they need their space. They are very wild. They're wild animals. But when they went into the water, they were very playful. It was like they now, that someone they were pushing away, they are almost like trying to entertain, you know. They do it for your own amusement. And for me, it was very fascinating, and because it gave me like this pure sense of joy. And then I thought, no, the best way to really express this internal world that is in all of us, us as human beings, the human spirit and emotions, was to use the seals as a metaphor for emotions, different types of emotions, and with the idea of really being patient, arriving to the idea of being patient with each other, you know, arriving to the idea of humanity, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then a year later, I had the exhibition luwatla, Spirit of the Ocean.
Yeah.
And while the exhibition was on, then this guy from the Netherlands, film producer from the Netherlands, comes to stay at the guest house, walks through the gallery, you know, and I'm checking it. I don't know what was happening at that day. It just happened that I happened to check him in through the gallery.
Yeah.
When he was crossing through the gallery to the guest house, he saw the exhibition. And then he asked me, who made these artworks? And I said, it's me. And he's blown away. I could see he's blown away. He says, no, I'm busy shooting a documentary about seals. And I tell him, you know what, I mean, I'm a storyteller myself, you know. And I use my work this is actually a story of my process. No, actually, I told him this is a story of my process because I'm a storyteller. And he says, you know what, I'm working on a film.
Yeah.
About seals dying and stuff like that. I'm a bit like, oh, wow, they're dying. I didn't know they were dying. 3 days down the line, he asked me, can I take some footage of your work? And then I say, yeah, and then I help, you know. In that process, we get to know each other better. We start talking.
Yeah.
And then he says, do you want to work on the project with me? And then I say, oh, yes, let's do it. So down the line, while we shooting the film, he says, do you want to say something about your work? And I say, no, man, you know what? I would prefer to write something down, and then that's the best way I can really like describe it. I don't want to do it randomly.
Yeah.
And you know, I write something down. You know, I write something down, and then he wants to record me, and then the voice thing, you know, and then I speak. I read what I've written, and it says, "Wow, man, have you ever narrated a film before? Do you do voiceovers?" I'm like, no, I've never done that. You know, I've always focused on painting. I've always focused on fine art. He says, man, you're the best narrator I've ever met, man. I'd like to work with you.
Yeah.
On this, I've never seen the beginning, but you know, with that attitude, I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
I approach it with that, let's do it attitude.
Yeah. You narrated the whole movie.
So I narrated the whole movie. So while I was narrating, and now we become friends, you know, then we move around. We go to the harbor, then I start talking to these people, you know, the fishermen. I start meeting people and having conversations. And it becomes, wow, man, might as well tell the story. And then I'm the storyteller, so I tell the story. I find out about the crisis, and I tell the story through my lens, and so I narrate and tell the story. So I'm staring in the film.
Were you aware before, while you were painting, were you aware of the seals being affected by the diseases that they have incurred? For instance, I think the latest one is rabies, right?
Yeah.
Were you aware that they are being affected by rabies?
I had no clue. I had no idea, because the only interaction I've had was the one at Cock Bay, and at that time it was just the joyful, the clear, beautiful picture of the idea of seals.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they were dying in numbers, and he started showing me all this thing, and it affected me,
Yeah.
And that's why I felt like it was now my responsibility to really like tell the story, and I jumped in for that opportunity, because then it felt like there was a reason I had to paint the seals. There was a reason this was happening.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. I'm very sad. Yeah.
In terms of the movie coming out, the response from what do you call other artists? We call musicians musos.
Other visual artists per se.
Yeah. What is the response to them having to see your artwork expressed in that manner? You call it realism.
Abstract realism, more towards more abstract. I've been getting good reviews and a good response, and people are congratulating me. So, but I'll tell you, because in the beginning, when I started painting like wildlife in spiritual realms, because I was the only one who was doing it. There was a question of why am I taking that direction? So I think for them to see it becoming wholesome, for them to see it become into a moving picture, it made sense to them. It now suddenly finally made sense.
Yeah.
And they were happy for me, because I've managed to put in different worlds into one perspective. You know, so I'm getting a lot of good reviews. I'm getting a lot of congratulations, all the best with this. You're making us proud, and we're glad you're doing this. You're inspiring us, and you'll inspire the next generation. And I'm getting a lot of good reviews.
Yeah.
I'm happy about it. Yeah.
Where do you expect to showcase your pieces next?
So look, I'm thinking of taking up a residency. The first idea would be Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking to getting gallery representation in the US, mostly New York. I feel like they will relate more to my work. And maybe I'll get a gallery and I'll show around as well. I'll still show in Joburg, because that's where the story started. And I'll still show in Cape Town. I'm still looking, and also the idea is to show in Africa, and we still have to look for galleries. So I'm very open. I'm very on the table at the moment, looking for opportunities to show my work. So I can't really know where I'm going to show next, but the idea is really, the goal now is, the dream is to do a residency in Amsterdam. Yeah.
Here's a question for you. How much do you think Africans are exposed to art in itself, and how much of it do they understand?
I think Africans understand art, but there's this stigma that is for the upper class, because of and I understand that idea, because of art is being displayed in gallery walls, on gallery walls, and it has there's a whole idea of art collecting. It's a culture of art collecting, and we don't have enough African collectors. We have mostly European collectors.
Yeah.
And that has really gave the stigma that it's for the bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
Instead of for me and you. And we shall really encourage for African people to start really collecting. The numbers are very low, but it's encouraged, because then it's a way of expressing ourselves. I don't want to be, I might be wrong, but I think it all began in Africa. It all began as cavemen, really using art to art on caves. Actually, when I was studying, I learned about this, that the cavemen, Carl Jung talks about this in his book, the Men and His Symbols. You should look it up.
Yeah.
He talks about how cavemen would paint them hunting the bisons, them going hunting, in order to be able to, as a form of meditation, which will ensure that they actually get to capture the the animals. So they believed that there would be like a shaman would go into a trance, and then he would paint this thing. They would make these paintings, and then they would even know where to go hunting, and they would later catch and kill the bisons at that time. So I think there's always been a connection to art from the beginning of time, and it was used for not just for appreciation, but used as a form of connecting with nature, per se. So I think if we move backwards, we'll really understand the appreciation of art, and we'll understand the connection between man and expressing himself in that medium.
What makes artwork go from a painting that you did in your own studio to a painting that will then cost a collector millions?
So what costs the collector millions is that so that's the secondary market. So the primary market is the primary market is the sales from the gallery, the sales from the studio, where the artist or the gallery representative is selling the work to the client. So the secondary market is when the painting goes onto auction. It gets auctioned. And because of now there's a demand for the work, and the demand for the work has gone so high that there's less pieces, or there's a demand for that specific kind of artwork. And then the collector wants to put it on the market, and then the highest bidder gets the piece.
So they become more expensive.
They become more valuable as time goes by, because of the value of that piece has escalated over the years, based on the importance of the artist and what the artist has been doing, his biography, his timeline in the art industry, his influence in the art industry. Yeah.
Gonje, who painted the Mona Lisa?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
I almost said DiCaprio.
The Mona Lisa is one. I think the last time I checked it was at the Louvre.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still there, but it's one of the most talked about paintings.
Iconic and very important painting. Yeah.
Why?
I mean, Leonardo da Vinci was a genius. I mean, when you look at it, so another thing there's something interesting about the Mona Lisa is that when you look at it, if you look at it, while looking at it, if you go to your left-hand side, the Mona Lisa looks at you. It moves with you. You go to the right-hand side, it looks at you.
Yeah.
And it is mysterious. I mean, it's mysterious what Leonardo da Vinci was thinking about when he was making that masterpiece. There's many questions about what it means. There's many questions about who he was painting. Some are saying he was painting himself, and so there's many things that make that painting very interesting, and his level of mastery and what he managed to achieve with that painting, and it got preserved, and over the years became one of his most important pieces. And yeah, it's a part of history. So it's from an era, and it's important to preserve. Art has the ability to preserve history.
Yeah.
And I think it preserves the Renaissance era.
Oh,
that's
yes.
what makes it so special, and it's been done by a master thinker.
There's also that painting by Michelangelo. I think it's the 16 Chapels it's called. Or it's at.
The 16 Chapel, or the painting on the ceiling.
The painting on the ceiling.
Also from the Renaissance. I mean, it's amazing what he has done. I mean, you can imagine at that time to paint that on the roof, and then it looks like you are in this. I've never been there, but hopefully I will, and to get to see it in person. But I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
At that time, it's mind-blowing, actually. That's why it stands the test of time, because it kind of shows you how incredible the mind is, and how incredible actually the soul is, to be able to capture that and translate that into something that is monumental.
What are some of the pieces that we have in Africa that are iconic? That iconic.
I mean, there's a couple of artists who have iconic pieces in museums and are like collected by museums. I'm trying to think. I mean, William Kendrick is the most collected artist. Nelson Makamo as well is amazing. He's a brilliant artist. He's a good brother.
Yeah.
Nicholas Kobo, Johannes Pokela. It's a bit tricky because I don't want to forget anyone. But
those are some of the ones that you off of the top of your head.
Yeah. Kimangwelo Kholere does amazing work. Nandipam Tambo. Look, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I can go on and on and on and on. Yeah. But I mean, it's on the rise. I mean, there's works by legendary. I mean, David Kolwane, Keral Sokoto, Tami Mnyele, Tumile Feni. There's a lot. Helen Sibidi, amazing work, which influences my work a lot as well.
Yeah.
Jackson Tlongwane, the sculptor, amazing sculptor. Yeah, there's a lot. I can go on and on and on.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's just that the exposure to art is very limited.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. Now, I mean, I can.
Besides the artist I've just asked you about, that would be obvious
that
to anyone.
That you would know.
Yeah.
I mean, that,
Yeah, but I also know you.
I mean, Nelson Makamo is an international star.
Yeah, but I also know you now.
Oh, thank you. I'm humbled.
No. I think you having to explain some of the pieces that you have, kind of, it makes sense to me to understand, to say, okay, so this is what I must look for in an art piece. This is how I must look at it. This is what I should be thinking. Because I've seen people that go to galleries, right?
Yeah.
And they've got these perceptions about what the artist was thinking, right? And it's been an amazing concept to me to say, I can literally walk into a gallery, find paintings, and interpret what the painter was thinking or feeling from things like brushstroke, use of color, the way the picture is. It's quite amazing. 20% of the time, the people who have explained that to me, and then I went on to read about the art piece, they've been spot on.
Yeah.
And I've been wondering how.
So Tolstoy says I got this quote back in the days, but it stayed with me. He said that a successful artwork is when the viewer gets to understand and feel what the artist was feeling at the time they were creating a piece. And I think that's very profound. I think we as human beings have the ability to connect beyond our imagination. And it is beautiful that one can connect with another through a medium where not much is being said. And actually it makes sense that the idea of what makes an artwork should be that, because it's there, it's connection. And I think that helps and reminds us to connect to nature in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, it's a human element. It's how it should be, and it's beautiful that art becomes the custodian of that as well. You know, it kind of like promotes that, kind of like elevates that.
Yeah.
That idea. Yeah, and I think it's just a thing. If I'm answering you, it's just what we have as human beings. We connect. Sometimes it affects us, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, there are people who are passive, who don't really engage, but that's just lack of engaging, you know?
Yeah.
It's not engaging the piece. It's not really wanting to understand. Because people, I mean, appreciate art for different reasons. Some will look at an art piece because it's beautiful. Some will connect to it spiritually. And some, it will remind them of a something, and some will not even understand why they are drawn to that piece. So that's the beauty of art, I've always felt.
Yeah. What is the relationship between art, jazz, and wine?
Beautiful one. So a friend of mine said to me that my mentor, which Kemang Walokholere, once said to me that you need to listen to jazz and try to understand what jazz musicians are translating in their music.
Yeah.
You know? And I got that. So I kind of like immediately made the connection because I'm a big fan of Jonas Gwangwa.
Yeah.
My favorite song is Dipororo. And another one should be Dipororo and Ulibambeli Ngashoni.
Yeah.
Where the craftsmanship, the beauty of how he plays the instrument, it's impeccable. And I think with wine, it's more the gentle approach, and how let me go back. Actually, with wine, because it's a sense of craftsmanship, it's beautiful. You know, with each and every bottle, there's a way in which it's made. It's made over the years. You have a bottle that is 20 Boschendal, 2020, direct Tascat. It shows you this craftsmanship that goes into it. And I think with all these three, it's a matter of appreciation. It's a matter of how you approach it. I mean, it's a taste thing.
Yeah.
It's delicate. You know, it's understanding the importance of it, and you know, really the appreciation of it is similar, and it often connects because one could watch an art piece while drinking wine and listening to jazz.
Yeah.
So there's a marriage. There's a sort of beautiful connection that really stitches all the three together. And they're almost inseparable. Because I listen to a lot of jazz. Actually, when I'm painting, I listen to a lot of jazz. And hardly drink wine because I move away from the idea of really drinking wine or any alcoholic substance while I'm painting, because it's more spiritual for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather have coffee and drink tea throughout, and sometimes coffee. But yeah, so the marriage is only when I appreciate, or only when I view, because I view my work. I mean, sometimes I'll go to the studio and have a glass of wine and just look at it, you know, and listen to music and try to see if it's to a level where it can stand on its own. It would speak on my behalf. Once it makes it to the gallery, or once it makes it to the wall of a collector or a client or whoever gets to appreciate it and decides to acquire it.
Yeah. I want to get into the prices of your painting, but I don't think that really matters, because of literally, for what you want, it has nothing to do with the cost. It's about the beauty of it, literally.
So I'll tell you. So what happens is that the pricing of the artworks go up as the demand goes up, as the artist builds up a profile. Yeah. So the more the demand, the more the prices will go up. The more the importance, the more the prices will go up, because of now it appreciates in value. So that's why the prices will go from 0 to 100. It takes time, but that's the reason why the value keeps going up, and then you end up with a certain price tag for
painting,
an artwork. Yeah.
Guno, I think it's Gogo Esther.
Yeah, Gogo Esther
Mahlangu. She painted something in New York.
Yeah.
I think it was a sidewalk, or it was a parking space.
Yeah.
In New York. That was one of the most interesting ideas that I've heard of coming from South African painting, right? Now, that I would say is a game changer for artists in South Africa.
Yeah. Because
the painting literally is something that we grew up seeing. Gwandebele.
Gwandebele.
All the houses are painted like that.
Yeah.
They are. It's I'd hate to say this, but it's almost like it's a natural thing for us.
Yeah.
Which we know this colors. Leading with that, my question is, how do you feel about, do I call that exploitation of our talents? Or is it exposure of our talents? How do you feel about our way of existence being commercialized like that by other nations? Let me throw another example that you would have had Ukoko Esther.
Yeah.
I know she got paid for the BMW.
Yeah.
I don't know about the painting she did in New York. I never followed the story.
Should be paid for it. Yeah.
Then you find things like clothing companies that use certain aspects that we call day-to-day living as in their fashion, and then selling it at a higher cost than we would in our space. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, cultural appropriation is a big thing, but it's I mean, there's laws against it. You know, you'll find that they end up being in trouble, and I mean, certain people escalate it to the law. I mean, they put So it's that. I mean, it happens, but I mean, it gets dealt with accordingly and immediately.
Yeah.
And coming back to coming back to the idea of being exposed and really in the commercial world, we need to be able to tell our stories as Africans, and we need to understand there was a certain time in history where we were not able to express ourselves. We were not able to tell our stories, you know. And to be able to expose ourselves and let the world know that we exist is, number one, the most beautiful thing. And then if we are getting paid for it, even more beautiful.
Yeah.
If we are getting acknowledged for it, even more beautiful. Honored for it, even more beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
We are unfortunately living in a commercial world, in a consumer-based world. And that is something we need to accept. That's why getting paid for it is beautiful. And I think because an African story being told by an African is how it should be. I mean, it would have been a problem if someone came and claimed that this is their thing and they have no connection to it. But the mere idea that there's connection to it is beautiful. Yeah. And that she managed to create a career out of it, and which is a successful career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. That's inspiring. Yeah.
Have you met her before?
Have I met her? I've never seen her in person, but recently she had a retrospective, so I couldn't go to the opening, but I was there to have a look at the work. So I've never met her in person, actually. Have I? I might have.
Yeah.
I might have. I've met a lot of artists. I've met a lot of, but I don't remember meeting her. I might have seen her, but never exchanged words with her.
Yeah.
I was a bit shy back in the day, so possibly.
For a person that cannot afford to go and study fine arts and wants to get into the arts, let me not even call them to arts, to painting particularly, and putting out expression work and all of that kind of jazz, what would you advise in that aspect?
So look, one does not have to study to become an artist, but it's something I wanted to study. It's always what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was the direction I was going to take anyway. Might as well get informed, get the education for it, learn, because that was important for me. But also we live in the internet age where people have access to the internet, YouTube and all this other social media. You could learn from there. You could do your own research. You could actually do your own research and follow in the footsteps of people who have done it before. I think that is the best teacher. If you want to end up making a success out of the career.
Yeah.
But if you want to just paint because you love it and not really sell on hand to hand, then also you can just do that. But I think the best way is to be well informed, study, do a lot of research about how the art industry works,
Yeah.
how the mediums work, the materials, the longevity of the art. Is this piece going to be archival? Is this piece going to last for a lifetime? Can I mix this with this? Can this not be mixed with this? I think the education around it is very important.
Yeah.
But then the internet age as well makes it easier. So one should not beat themselves up if they are not able and can't afford to study. One can teach themselves. It's not that if you don't get to study, then you will never make it as an artist. You can. And another thing, you could get a mentor, someone who's really like already in the industry. They can teach you this and that, They can guide you on what to do and how to give you like some tips and on what to do. Get a couple of mentors. It's very good. It's very good to have a mentor. It's very good to have people advising you on which direction to go and advising you on how to make a career out of it.
Yeah. What are the logistics involved? Let's say now you had to go showcase your artwork at Jozi, and then you have to go showcase at Kenya. What type of logistics are involved in moving art pieces from space to space? 1, 2. Well, what kind of insurances are there that your art pieces do not get damaged or stolen in the process?
So there's art couriers, which they know they've been trained on how to handle artworks.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's insurance that gets to be paid in case something happens to the art. But I think mostly it's the responsibility of the artist. But there's art couriers. So there's people who are being trained on how to handle artworks and creating. So they'll come and they'll look at the artwork and they'll tell you on how they're best going to wrap it or create it, depending on the importance, depending on how fragile the artwork is. Sometimes some people would just unwrap and stretch the canvas, roll it, and then it later, if it's traveling abroad, and then it gets restretched wherever it's going, which is always the cheapest way. Yeah, but there's many ways. But there's specialized people who really like handle art.
The chances of damage when they unhinge it from the frame and roll it?
So they'll get someone who's trained as well to do that. There's special people who specializes at that. They've studied it. They start also at restoration. In case the painting gets damaged, they might be able to fix it. Yeah.
Is it? And restore
at a
it.
cost, which is very expensive. Yeah. There's very few people who do that. Yeah. So
I can imagine. Between artists and jazz musicians, what is the symbol of beret?
Oh well, I mean the beret might come from the era, mostly Picasso,
The
when it
Renaissance
comes
concept.
to the visual art. I think with the jazz, there's jazz maestros who were wearing a beret. I think it was also a fashion statement at that time. You know? It was more about being sophisticated, more about being standing out. Per se, being this gent, like being like looking in a certain way that immediately you stand out. You become, the guy with the beret. I could be wrong, but I think it was that idea. And the influences. We get influenced all the time, but we are never really aware that we are being influenced by images. I mean, the idea of Picasso might have an influence on me as well. But per se, I'm really actually a hat guy. I come from a family of hat wearers. We'll never. From my grandfather to I've never met him, but my father told me my uncles are all they love hats.
Yeah.
My father is a big fan of tops. He doesn't even wear berets. He wear tops.
Yeah.
So I get that a lot from him, but I wear different types of hats. It's not necessarily that I'm loyal to the idea of wearing a beret. I like it, yes. I love it. It's comfortable on my head. Yeah,
but it's why I'm asking this is 90% of artists that I've seen, all artists have berets.
Yeah. No, not all, but there are some that really like hats. But it's because of the influence thing that I'm telling you about. Because the artists from the beginning of time, would wear hats and berets in the time. So it just became a thing. A beret became this symbol for both jazz, of artists in general. Yeah.
Does your art influence your fashion concepts?
Does it? Very much influences my color coding, the type of colors that I choose when I buy something. But does it influence? I think also my dressing is influenced by other artists.
Oh, okay.
So I like how this person looks, and then I'll be like, and then I'll dress this way. And my mother was I come from a family of like fashionable people, and my mother was a designer herself.
Yeah.
So you can almost marry the two. I was always gonna be like this, even if I was not an artist. I was always gonna want to look good. I was always gonna want to mix that with that. So it's in my DNA.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say now the next thing I'm wearing brown because of a painting of a seal. No, but maybe. Because maybe it's there in the film. Let me not contradict myself. Maybe partly.
Yeah.
But it's nothing that I never really thought about it until you asked the question. So
Yeah.
Something to still think about.
Let me take you back to your humble beginnings a bit here. I know a lot of African people wouldn't regard art as a profession.
Yeah.
Now yes, it's easy. Like you wouldn't come up and say, I want to be an artist in post 1994, pre 2010.
Yeah.
And your parents would be, yes, we support that. There would
Yeah.
always be some pushback.
Yeah.
Right? In your case, did you ever get that kind of pushback from the family when you decided, like, say, I want to quit LLB, I'd rather go do professional fine arts?
So my father's always been supportive of me becoming an artist and studying what I want.
Okay.
So the question was me having to move from home to go and study in Joburg where I don't know anyone.
Oh, okay.
So he felt like it was too soon, to just now be in this space where I don't know, there's no relative and I'm all alone.
Yeah.
But my father's always been supportive from day one. The reason why I studied LLB was just so I can be closer to home.
Oh, okay.
But not the idea that he was like, no, you can't study that because of this.
So there was no.
No, it was never that. But I think in most instances, with other artists, is that we come from an era or a history where becoming a doctor, becoming a nurse, and becoming a lawyer was more a solid career because of like black tax. You'd come and have to help take your sisters and brothers to school. You will come and help take care of your parents, and they felt that because they were not exposed to that world, they were not exposed to that idea that you could make a living out of making art. And also I was inspired. Also people thought that when you're an artist, you're kind of like on the spectrum. You're kind of like...
Yeah.
So, that discouraged as well, because they would see someone making bows from paper mesh and selling them by the street and sometimes staying there the whole day in the sun and not making money. And discourage a lot of parents, and which I understand. Coming from where we come from as a country, coming from our background. So I think it discouraged a lot of people at that time. But I think we've moved more towards where parents are seeing that it's possible and they are allowing their children to study what they want for their own fulfillment, because of maybe maybe you can study, some parents would even say study this first and study that, or study this and do that, or maybe study this but find other ways to make means. So it's not as discouraged as it used to be.
I was having a conversation I think it was about 2 weeks ago when we were discussing how the concept of chosen professions became to be.
Yeah.
And it was the requirements of the time. You know, between that time, there was a huge requirement of African doctors, African teachers, African nurse, because you know what we come from, right?
Yeah.
So it would be, we can't service this particular group, so this particular group must service themselves. Hence the opportunities then handed out to then drive a particular narrative for particular professions. For instance, currently medical care is expensive, extremely expensive. You, not so long from now, Panado and 2-pack is gonna cost like $100 because of how expensive
things
have been. You know, so the career chosen paths felt like they were driven. It wasn't by choice. Because if you think about it, as you had mentioned earlier on, we are very creative. We're a very creative nation. If you were to understand our own architecture, right? We would build houses out of mud. We had natural medication. We had natural paintings. I mean, imagine having to paint what you paint. In the 50s, you'd have to wonder where they got the color. Right? We could manufacture textiles. We wore clothes. Our kind of clothes, but they were clothes. So it was a matter of culture-driven professions. You know, to say we're moving you away from this kind of thinking and existence into this one. And then also with that, doctrinate the whole system so as then we can make money out of you in the longer run. So it was just a fascinating concept of that. And it ties into what you're saying now when it comes to how much art or how much creativity we have as a nation, and how relatable to realism and abstract realism we are. Anyway, that was just a thought I'm sharing from that conversation.
It's a very interesting angle. It's a very, thank you. So, because I thought it was always like, you're gonna be a doctor. I don't want my son to be something. He must be a nurse. What do you wanna be when you grow up? I wanna be a nurse. So I thought it was just solely that. But it's interesting to see that there's many. It matches. There's a background to that way of thinking.
I got angry the other day when someone was telling me how the white paper on apartheid was written. You know, and the fact that apartheid as a South Africa is a byproduct of going to all the countries that oppress people, the states, Nazi Germany, England, like. Apparently, the drafter of the white paper traveled to all of those countries to go and find out, study, research, understand how the oppression worked, and come back. And then when they got here, they literally implemented it. What kills me today is how it's still working. I don't know if you get that. It's still working. It's not that it's actually surpassed its sell by date, but it's still working and it's still influencing. Hence, the less exposure to things like art, for instance. You know, the less exposure now, people to say there is art piece that costs $1 million and you can literally paint it and have it, and it exists and sell it at this cost. Besides that, there's actually there's more to it than just the art in terms of the things that are out there.
Which also just education. You know, reading and being aware, because I think the thing that they will attack the mind. You know, when you attack the mind, you're done. You know? The body just becomes the shell.
But I still also wish we could actually understand teachings from our own perspectives, because teachings from our own perspectives then teach culture. Then culture then teaches behavior. I read something this morning by Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if you know Stephen Bartlett. Yeah, I was telling you about Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called The Diary of a CEO. And he states certain laws of how to conduct. And I think it was law 4. He speaks about mastery.
Yeah.
How do you master something? And he spoke about there's 3 cups that you need to fill in order to decide which you're a master. The first step is to educate yourself. The second one is to take your education and then skill yourself. So the only time you get skilled is when you put practice into your education. Then the third one would be to teach. When you're teaching the skill that you've acquired, then you become a master at that concept. So that was a very interesting one. So in my opinion, for people that used to heal people back in the days, create medicine, moringa, umhlonyana, I mean, they had to figure out this is used for flu, this is used for this is used for that. And to teach the next people, they would have mastered that concept until they were told, Uguti, this is not correct medicine. But it literally was.
It was.
And it literally was healthier than lab fabricated medication. But yeah, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And it continues. I mean, like now they turning the same thing into tablets and stuff. Because it's there. You know, I mean, but also, I mean, for me, it's there were people who were dedicated to that.
Yeah.
And I think it could be seen as a gift. A certain someone has a gift to know. Like they just know. It's more like a calling.
Yeah.
To know that this could heal this and this could. But I think it's a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Some people would be like, I was dreaming, and I dreamt of these 3, and then something told me that if I want to heal this, someone with this, I must use this.
Yeah.
So that's
same voices you're getting that tell you what to paint and what.
Similar.
Yeah.
Very much so. It's just that it's translated into painting, because I do dream of what I paint. Sometimes I dream of it after, if it's too late, but sometimes I see it before and then I paint it. Sometimes I even remember, like, poof, so that's why I have a piece called I Have Been Here Before. So I wanted to record that idea, that I've seen things. And very interesting that with that piece, the seals are starting to mutate. They're starting to be strange.
Yeah.
And I said, I've seen this before, and then poof, rabbies, then there's a film.
Yeah,
goosebumps.
One, where can we view your artwork?
So now you can view my artworks at Gallery South in Museumberg.
Yeah.
It should be done on appointment, which I think you'll be able to share my contacts.
Yeah.
So I'll do, Museumberg so far.
Yeah.
Because all my recent stuff it's on the wall.
Yeah.
It's on show.
Yeah.
Museumberg, number 19 Atlantic Road, Museumberg.
Yeah. Where do we find you on social media?
So I'm on Facebook, I'm Theko Boshomane. And on Instagram, I'm at Theko Boshomane.
Okay. Where do we watch the movie?
So, I mean, the film now, we're still doing, along with the director and producer, we're doing screenings so far. So we're hoping to screen more, but we haven't really secured venues so far. But we're putting it, there's a website at out of the blue.docu, where the information about the next screening will be shared.
Yeah.
So and there's also out of the blue.docu on Instagram, at out of the blue.docu on Instagram. So we'll be sharing the dates as well on there.
Yeah. No, we'll also make sure that in the description we put out the dates that are still coming, the QR codes to follow the page. And as much as we possibly can to get you out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for gracing us with your presence on Analogue Culture.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know we're mostly a music-based concept, but literally, to tell you the honest truth, we are a creatives-based space. I really get fascinated by other creatives doing different things, and this is you expressing your creativity in artwork, and it really it really matters. At some stage, I'll be able to talk about your paintings because I know you personally. So to an extent, I just learned a bit of a level of sophistication.
Thank you for doing this, because you're giving us a platform to tell our stories.
Yeah.
So I think it's very necessary, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Analogue Culture, DJ Ndo-C out. Have a great time. #Pa. Woo.